Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear students, today we are here with the second unit of Educational Technology, Theories, Laws and Types of Learning. First, I am going to tell you about that what is learning. Learning is a process of acquiring information, knowledge, skills, practicing and experience something. Or we can say that learning is an activity in which someone learns something effective. Now I am going to tell you about the principles of learning. Learning is a developmental process. Learning becomes more effective under satisfying conditions. Process of transfer takes place in learning situations. Meaningful practice is essential in building cognitive structures, and goal setting facilitates learning. Now I am going to tell you about the theories of learning. Learning is classified into two important types. The first is SR theories without reinforcement, and the second is SR theory with reinforcement. SR theories without reinforcement. In this theory, the first theory is classical conditioning, which is also known as Pavlov theory of learning. Classical conditioning is a reflexive or automatic type of learning in which a stimulus acquires the capacity to evoke a response that was originally evoked by another stimulus. Now we can see in this diagram, in the first diagram you can see that the food is offered to a dog and dog starts to produce saliva. But in the second diagram, no food is offered, no saliva is produced. In the same way, we can see in the third diagram, again the both stimuli offered and the dog started to produce saliva. But in the fourth and the final diagram, you can see that no food is offered, but as the sound, or we can say the tuning fork vibrates, the saliva started to produce and the dog is expecting food in the next step. It was all basically about the strong imagination which was remained or conceived by the animal in brain, due to which the response eventually evoked due to another stimuli. Now we are going to discuss about the second SR theory without reinforcement, which is called as Watson learning theory. John Watson is often called the father of behaviorism. In 1878 till 1958, he emphasized on objective and observable data such as the people's behavior and reactions as opposed to internal processes that can be observed like mental states or thought processes. For example, Watson's most famous and the controversial experiment is known as the Little Albert experiment. Little Albert was basically a 11th month boy who was trained to fear a white rat by pairing it with a loud sound. In time, the child began to cry and show signs of distress upon seeing the white rat even without the associated sounds.
A dog a rabbit finally, a white rat. Albert in particular liked the white rat. From all these clips, notice Albert's positive reactions. And now comes the conditioning. To start off the conditioning, when Albert reached to touch the rat, a loud bar was struck whenever Albert reached for the rat. Here, Albert first off fell forward and was startled, but he did not cry yet. But he reached for it for a second time and heard it, and then he started to cry. Watson had indeed conditioned a fear response in little Albert. Albert was then shown a rabbit. He immediately cried and got as far away as possible from it. Then a dog was also brought in. Albert did not cry right away. He was acting cautious, and it was only when the dog came right up to his head that he began to cry and tried to get away from it.
Now I'm going to tell you about the third theory, which is called as Gutrys learning theory. Gutrys contiguity theory specifies that a combination of stimuli which has accompanied a movement will on its reappearance tend to be followed by the movement. According to Gutrys, all learning was a consequence of association between a particular stimuli and response. For example, the classical experiment of contiguity theory is based on cats learning to escape from a puzzle box. In 1946, Gutrys used a glass panel box that allowed him to photograph the exact movement of the cats. These photographs showed that cats learned to repeat the same sequence of the movement associated with the prior escape from the box. Improvement observed because irrelevant movements are unlearned or not included in successive associations. Now, dear students, I am going to tell you about the second SR theories without reinforcement. The second theory is the Thorndike learning theory. In Thorndike's view, learning is a process of forming associations or bonds with the connection of the confident act with a positive situation and resulting player. For example, the classical example of the Thorndike SR theory was a cat learning to escape from a puzzle box by pressing a lever inside the box. After many trials and errors behavior, the cat learned to press the lever with opening the door. Then this SR connection is established, results satisfying state of activities and rewards. This law is also called as law of exercise, law of effects, as well as the law of readiness. Now, my dear students, I am going to tell you about the process and the elements of learning. There are three elements of learning. The first is called as acquisition, the second is retention, and the third is transfer. First, we are going to discuss about acquisition. Acquisition refers to the initial stage of the learning or conditioning process. Response is being associated with some stimuli to the point where we can say the organisms, like it could be a person or it could be an animal, has acquired some response. During this stage, the response is strengthened. It means like it is truly learned. For example, if you are trying to train a rat to press a lever in response to you ringing a bell, the rat will definitely press the lever. By this practice, you can assume that the response is acquired, it is achieved, or it is strengthened. The second is the element is retention, the process by which the long-term memory preserve a learning so that it can locate, identify and retrieve it in future also. For example, if we are trying to learn something which is very interesting in the classroom, we are going to learn it for the long time. Here I am going to show you a video. In this video, the teaching in a classroom will be more effective if a teacher is going to use an appropriate language in a classroom. She is looking very presentable and reasonable, using pedagogy's techniques of studies and audiovisual aids. In this way, the students, they are going to learn a lot, and this style of teaching will be more effective and attractive for the students, and it will always remain the part of their long-term memory. Now, I am going to tell you about the third element of the learning, which is called as transfer. It is the study of the human conduct, learning or performance of the previous experience. It may be positive, it may be negative, or it could be zero. Transfer is the ability to apply knowledge learner in one context to new context. For example, learning to drive a car helps a person to later drive a truck. In the same way, learning mathematics prepares students to study physics. Now, I am going to tell you the most important thing, that the role of a teacher in a learning process. In teaching learning process, the teacher plays multiple roles in a classroom. According to Swaps and Obrio in 1994, they have summarized the teacher's roles in the light of research. For example, the effective teachers provide an overview of what is to be learned. They promote readiness activities linked with new informations, previous knowledge, and the pre-teaching difficulties vocabulary. Teachers provide clear instructions, elaborate ideas, and foster the hidden traits of the learners. Teachers monitor students' comprehensions and direct effective measures. Another important role of the teacher is the teacher's open-mindedness indicates his or her ability to listen, respond, and to interact with the students. The teachers accept the students' values while encouraging their questions when she feels they are in the need of clarification or explanation. A great teacher creates a sense of community and belonging in the classroom. Great teachers possesses good listening skills and take time out of their way to busy schedules for anyone who needs them. A great teacher can shift mechanisms and is flexible when lessons is not working. She finds new ways to present material to make sure that every student understands the key concepts. A great teacher has his own love of learning and inspires students with his passion for education and for the course material. Now I am going to tell you about the information processing model. The information processing model is a framework used by cognitive psychologists to explain and to describe the mental processes of a child. Learning processes is similar to the functioning of a computer. Through reception and end with the feedback that they get about their performance. Just like a computer, the human mind takes information, organizes and stores it into their retrieved at the later time. Just as the computer has an input devices, output devices, processing units and the storage units, so that the human mind have equivalent structures between these two events. There are several stages of the inter-processing information. Information is there, then we are going to follow the sensation, perception is there, short-term working memory is there, decision is there, and then finally action is there for the students. Now my dear students, I am going to highlight now the teaching and learning at different memory levels. Memory is of course central to learning, which could not happen without it. Indeed, memorizing is a synonym for the lowest level of rote learning. Following important features are associated with learning at memory levels like analysis of the subject matter, specified and fixed order of the subject matter. In years gone, teachers were viewed as dispenser of knowledge. Typically, teachers transmitted the information standing in front of learners who were arranged in neat rows of floors, vaulted desks in the form of lecturing. And finally, their performance were periodically assessed through tests. Now, to function this kind of showground, teachers needed good grounding in their subject matter. A strong speaking voice and an appropriate delivery of style of teaching is very important nowadays, because in the recent years, this traditional style of teaching has been changed and it has also become obsolete. Finally, today, teachers tend to be viewed not as exclusive sources of information, but as instructional manager. They may use computer-assisted instructions, television and host of the other source of information transmit current knowledge of their youngsters. This style of teaching is much different from the lecture method. Now I am going to tell you about the teacher's role. The role of the teacher is very important in our society. Teachers may assume that their responsibilities are very important to transmit information to their young ones. I'm going to highlight you the important factors here. The first is define objects. The define objects offers an efficient way to facilitate instruction of commonly taught concepts, procedures, applications and skills. We can readapt some learning objects for the different types of users. The second is the diagnostic learners. Diagnostic teaching is the process of diagnosing student abilities, needs and objectives through learning activities. Through diagnostic teaching, the teacher monitors the understanding and the performance of the students before teaching the lesson. While teaching and after teaching the lesson, the diagnostic teaching can inform the teachers the effectiveness of their lesson with the individual, with groups, with small groups and with large groups. So, in this way the teacher is going to do his or her self-evaluation. Now, the third is the planning instructional activities. In planning instructional activities, the following elements, they are very important. The first is motivation of learners. The second is addition of alternative methods of introducing the material, and the third is provision of opportunities for learners to apply new understandings. And the fourth is implementing instructions. It is the teacher who establishes the classroom learning environment and the instructional activities for students. It is the teacher who communicates an attitude toward and a vision of mathematics and helps students to construct their mathematical understanding, because a teacher are the ultimate implementer of the curriculum. The fifth is evaluating learning outcomes. The evaluating learning outcomes consists of the formative individual evaluation, formative program evaluation, summative individual evaluation and summative program evaluation. Formative individual evaluation. This evaluation provides the feedback to the learner, identifying areas and provides suggestions for improvement. While in formative program evaluation, it provides the information and suggestions for improving the curriculum and program performance in a particular area. In summative individual evaluation, it measures whether specific performance objectives were accomplished or achieved or not achieved, or if there is lacking something, so it is going to be emphasized on it. In summative program evaluation, it measures the success of the curriculum and its implementation. Now, I am going to tell you the most important, the role of a teacher as a counselor. Teachers as counselor are there to overcome the difficulties leading to an increased capacity to take rational control over their feelings and actions. Teachers as counselor help students to develop decision-making skills, to assist students in moving towards the direction of fulfilling their potentials or in achieving an integration of previously conflicting parts of themselves. Teachers as counselor provide students skills, awareness, knowledge which will enable them to confront social inadequacies. Now, finally, today I am going to tell you about the last, the important the topic of this unit, which is known as the strategies of motivation. Teachers should select appropriate techniques of motivation on the basis of the following criteria. The first is the needs of the students, the second is the learning objectives, and the third is learning structures. First, I am going to tell you about the needs of the students in context with motivation. Most of the human learning and the behavior are controlled and regulated by his needs. Maslow classified the needs of students in a form of external motivation, internal motivation and internal external motivation. The second is the learning objectives. The major function of the motivation is to control and regulate the behavior of the students. Knowledge, understanding and creativity can be used as criteria for selecting the appropriate techniques of motivation. Single learning, chain learning, multiple discriminations, concept learning and principle learning can be used as learning techniques. So dear students, it was all about the theories of the learning today. I hope that you understood the whole unit and must comprehend it with detailed reading of the unit. And I hope that you are getting all the points that we have discussed today, that we have shared today through this program. See you in the next program. Till that time, bye bye and fi aman.